What about it, YouTube? All right, look, everything's becoming more and more fake and gay. Just had the dude, MMA guy, went to the Tucker party. Everybody's there. Everybody's friends behind the scene. Everything's kayfabe. Okay, everyone? We're at that point. Congratulations, CIA, Mossad, whoever it was that thought that it would be so wonderful to make it impossible for anyone to ever get down to what is true. To just have everyone running around parroting some kind of a lie or mistruth or misdirection. Congratulations. How fucking neat is that? Anyway, let me just use this time here on this video to tell you I'm not fake. All right. I'm not AI. All right. But I'll tell you what, from my Gen X experience and noticing, is telling me to share with you right now is this. Okay. The first thing that sort of shook me to my core was when all of a sudden it was okay to go after Bill Cosby for something he supposedly did decades and decades and decades and decades ago. And nobody stood in the way. And nobody said, wait, this is old. And just everybody went with it. Why? Because it was terrible to have these accusations that involved poor women at whatever time of night hanging out with a top celebrity and happened to walk away well and fucked. And then now, decades later, that wasn't what they wanted when they were hanging out with him, right? Decades later, it's a problem. Decades later, it's all the trauma of what he did to me. Decades later, it's, oh my gosh, he made jokes about Spanish fly. I think I was taken advantage of. Decades later, and no one stands up and says, wait a minute, this is like beyond statute of limitations. Like, he didn't kill anyone. These chicks, this is decades ago. I mean, really? So that was the first, like, that was the canary in the coal mine. And then the next thing that just totally gut punched me, that just totally just took the wind out of me, was the whole Alex Jones and Sandy Hook thing, right? And not that I was not an Alex Jones dude back in 2012 ish, right? I was not on his whatever fan club. I I dropped off 2009, 2010, and I was officially done with him after he was rubbing up against Charlie Sheen during his Tiger Blood meltdown. If you know what I'm talking about, this is old news, but I was an Alex Jones listener from about 2005 to 2009 as I was trying to find out the ins and outs and what have yous of 9/11. Now it's come real clear that Alex's whole role in that was to keep everyone focused on everything but the Jays, everything but the Silversteins, everything but E Team, everything but the Mossad art students, everything but the urban moving vans, everything but the dancing Israelis, everything but the fact that Israel's fingerprints were up and down and all over 9/11. And so he was able to do that, right? So that's where I kind of, at some point I broke away from Alex and I was always frustrated with him because back in the day he used to just interrupt his guests, but he did have some interesting guests. And, I came from Gen X listening to G. Gordon Liddy. Wasn't much of a Limbaugh fan, but conservative talk radio was sort of a thing in the 90s. And then Alex sort of transitioned that vibe into the internet first, if you will, because they, whatever, happened to Bill Cooper. So he was out of it. But as the internet came forward and that became more of a media information sharing avenue, you had Alex, who definitely took advantage of that and definitely became the guiding force behind 9/11 truth, if you will. All right. So back to my story here. What totally blew me away was in 2012, Alex, not just Alex though. I was there. I don't know if you were there, but Sandy Hook happened, and there were all these videos of how people were like walking in circles in and out of the building, and it was just retarded. You know, they had these aerial views of people just walking around, and everything was retarded. Everything was retarded. Everything that was happening at the school was retarded. There were these instances of like practicing, you know, everything just became obvious. It was something was wrong and fake. And then the kids go to Gene Rosen, a Jew, his house, right? And that was beyond strange. The bus just dropped kids off at a strange Jew's house, and he took them in and played with them as they told him stories about how their teacher was killed. No one's calling 9/11, no one's finding their parents, we're just hanging out with strange kids, and it was terrible, and like nothing made sense. Then there was the coroner. I mean, if you remember, none of that made sense. Oh my God, if you can remember the coroner and his talk about it, retarded. Then there's the fact that nobody remembers that school really being open. Okay. And then you find out that all of the homes in the neighborhood were sold by two different companies on the same day, December 25th, for round numbers of $125,000. It was like something was so fishy. Like somehow two companies came in and bought up the neighborhood and sold them all to Jews. And there was a school that was closed and was shut down. They faked this whole thing. And then here comes Alex talking about how there's problems with Sandy Hook. Then comes these Jew families years later saying, oy vey, I've had death threats thanks to Alex. And they sue Alex. And in the early days, it was like exciting. It was like, oh my gosh, this is our chance, because Alex will be able to get discovery. And what's going to happen when they have to unfold all of the evidence of this bullshit, right? It's going to wipe them out. Alex is going to wipe them out with discovery. And then when you watched how that trial went down, and the way the judge acted, and then even the way Alex acted, like falling on his like oopsie daisies, and like the discovery never happened. At the end of the day, it was a chilling effect. At the end of the day, the takeaway was, if you question a narrative that's been given to you that hurts people's feelings, you can be sued for billions of dollars. Forget free speech. Forget investigative journalism. Forget independent investigative journalism. Forget conspiracy theories being just a fun thing to do in your spare time. Oh, no, no, no. Alex Jones showed that you can be sued for billions of dollars for just questioning an official story narrative that, quote, hurts somebody's feelings. And so let me tell you, this is what I'm getting to right now. What's about to happen with Charlie Kirk that's cooking up right now? Okay? I don't know how much you can trust any of these people. I would say close to none, slim left town. But here's what they're all brewing up together. All of these people, the Erica Kirks, the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, and all of the rest of it. Tim Pools, you can just take them all and just say this about it. This is the last stand of humanity and Christianity up against Zog. Mark my words. This is the last stand against Zog. We are at you want to talk about turning point? We're at the turning point of whether or not we are going to forever be ruled and controlled by Zog, or whether or not we will stand and Christianity and humanity will prevail over this demonic hellishness. This is it. Because what I just told you leading up to this is evidence to me that this is what they're cooking up. Is anyone who dares question anything that may involve a Jew. You could question whether or not the earth's flat. If they decide that that's anti-Semitic, you're going to get cooked. And see, going back to Alex, where's Alex now? Supposedly, he's billions and billions of dollars in debt, but he's still out there, sort of. He hasn't really gone away, has he? So doesn't that tell you something? That he was meant to be where he's at now. He was meant to owe what he owes now. This is all a show. It's all a kayfabe. It's all, everything is emotion. Everything is emotion. Everything. I could go on. I mean, we could make my God, I want to do something to talk about this more, and maybe we will, hopefully. But this is emotional. And this is what the Jays are counting on. That emotionally, the aggregate, the forcible, perceivable stance and acceptable viewpoint going forward and position going forward is going to be one thing or another. And they're counting on that it will be any criticism of any topic that any Jew takes personally and feels some kind of way about means you will be burned to the ground. This is it. This is it. Where if you somehow intentionally or accidentally hurt a Jew's feelings for anything you do or say, you will be burnt to the ground. This is it. This is the precipice. This is where you will only be allowed to grovel and worship at the feet of Jews from here on out for eternity, or Christianity will prevail. This is it. Mark my words, that this is it. This is it. This is where everything will either fall into place or be pushed back or fall apart. Okay? Like, their worst case scenario is that they'll just be pushed back. That the aggregate, the sentiment, the, you know what I mean? The collection of what we can get away with, because that's what they're doing. They're collecting right now emotionally through all of their information sources what they can get away with. And this is it, where they need to be let known that no, you're pushing too far. And your best thing to do now is sit back and just be pushed back and have your aggressions and your appetite stalled. That's their best case. That's what we need to, that's what they're not planning on ever being defeated. They've had to take setbacks in the past. They're prepared for setbacks, right? At the very least, they need to be set back now. And at the very best, they need to be absolutely beat the fuck out. As Martin Luther said, leave nothing of their memory. They want to talk about blotting out Esau and Amalek. Good. Blot out this crap Jacob. I mean, blot it out so that in 100 years, no one even knows it exists. It'll be some Tartaria or some kind of, right? Atlantis or some, dinosaurs. Oh, wow. Aliens. Wow. Yeah, wow. Jews. Whoa, yeah. Whoa. Space Jews. Whoa, yeah. Make it that. Make it just a myth. Because the hellishness of accepting the reality of what we're dealing with right now is intolerable. God bless.